Hey everybody. Today we are going to talk about how our characters, whatever is motivating them, how it drives the plot. So we're going to use this story, Can Buy Me Love by Paul Feig, to study our characters' motivations. This is a story about a little guy who's interested in a little girl. We want to look at what's motivating him to be interested in her and what he does about it and how that drives the plot of the story. So our I can statement today is that I can always analyze how a character's motivation drives the plot. Whatever is motivating us to do something drives us to actually carry out the plan and do it. So let's focus on the character's actions and how they drive the plot of our story today. We can infer what kinds of people or person someone is just by what they want and what they do. Authors engage us by not telling us every single thing about our characters and our stories, but by showing us what they think and what they do, and we base who they are, who we think they are, on their actions. They show us who they are, and whatever it is that they're wanting to carry out in the story is based on the things that they say and do. So we are going to read Can Buy Me Love, and we are going to think about the details in the story and how his motivations are going to drive this plot. Okay? You have your copy at home, hopefully. And as I read this, you just follow along with me, and we'll stop every now and then and jot and do some thinking work. Can Buy Me Love. The whole time I was in school, from kindergarten all the way through graduation, I can't remember a time when I didn't have a crush on some girl. But I never had fleeting casual crushes. I had terminal, obsessive crushes. The kind that would last all school year and occasionally flow into the next. The kind that makes you sit up at night and stare out windows and walk around in Hallmark stores. The kind that makes you misty watching romantic movies, wishing that it was you and Beth or Tina or Julie, and not that good-looking movie star couple who were walking down the beach at sunset, totally passionately in love. I have a feeling I spent more class periods staring longingly at girls who didn't even know I existed and wishing they were mine than any other kid in the history of the educational system. Or at least it felt that way to me. One of my biggest crushes was on a girl named Yvonne. We were in the 8th grade together, and she sat across from me in homeroom. Our class was laid out with 2 groups of 30 desks facing each other on opposite sides of the large room, creating an open area in the middle where our teacher lectured from, sort of an educational theater in the round. Because of this, I had a direct view of Yvonne. Each day as she sat 40 feet from me, completely unaware of my existence. She looked like Veronica Lake with black hair. My mother had made me watch Sullivan's Travels that summer on the afternoon movie, and I thought that Veronica Lake was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, even though she only existed in black and white. Even when my mother told me that Veronica Lake was dead, I still couldn't stop thinking about her. And on the first day of 8th grade, when I saw Yvonne for the first time, I felt as if she had been sent to me from afar, that perhaps Miss Lake had come back to earth in this form when she heard that the gangly kid with the John Denver haircut had been dreaming about her every night. Now, this is an old movie. John Denver is a singer. You may or may not have heard of him, but he was popular when I was a little girl, which was a long time ago. And the movie, by them telling us that it was in black and white, that lets us know that it was from a long time ago, because movies back then were made in black and white. They didn't have color. Yvonne had the same kind of long, straight hair as Miss Lake, and always had it particularly covering her face, or partially covering her face. Her eyes were very big and exotic looking, like the eyes of an Indian princess. I thought poetically, And I would wish for hours on end that those eyes could be staring longingly into mine. Unfortunately, her eyes were usually staring at her homeroom teacher, Mr. Parks. He was a handsome young guy with a neatly cropped beard like Kenny Loggins, and I was convinced that she had a huge crush on him. Mr. Parks would always bring his guitar to class, and he would sing sappy 1960s love songs under the guise of opening us up to the music of his generation. But I knew he was just doing it to steal Yvonne away from me. I was sure of it. It didn't matter, though. Even the way she looked while she sat and watched Mr. Parks with passion in her eyes made me love her all the more. She always wore short skirts and sat at an angle, extending her exposed legs out into the aisle while resting her cheek on her hand. The effect was stunning and only strengthened resolve to make her my girlfriend with each passing day. So the author gives a lot of detail there so that you can visualize what Yvonne looks like and what he's picturing in his mind. I'm not really sure if I had any idea what it would be like to even have a girlfriend back then. I knew I wanted one, but beyond that, the image was murky and undefined. So this kind of is telling us that he wouldn't even know what to do with a girlfriend, even if he had one. I guess more than anything, I wanted a girlfriend so that she would walk around with me and hold my hand, and I could point to her when I was with my friends and say, hey, check it out, you guys. That's my girlfriend. So I'm going to underline this right here. I guess more than anything, I wanted a girlfriend so she would walk around with me and hold my hand, and I could point to her when I was with my friends and say, hey, check it out, you guys. That is my girlfriend. So that tells me that his motivation is just so that he can show off in front of his friends. But how would I make this happen without actually physically having to talk with her, to her, was the unknown part, because he was too scared to do that. Because there was no way I could simply walk up to her and start chatting. That was way too terrifying a prospect. No, a sneaky little plan was needed. Okay, so he's thinking about a sneaky little plan. How could I make her come over and throw her arms around me with a minimum amount of risk on my part? So see, he didn't want to take any risk here. He wanted it to all be about him. He's sounding a little bit selfish to me here. How can I make her realize that out of all the guys in our school, I was the one that she would fall in love with? The shy kid with the plaid dress pants and the romantic thoughts who sat silently across from her staring at her longingly instead of listening to his teacher and learning things he might really need to know later in his life. Well, there was only one way that I could think of, and that was to buy her off. Who buys people off? What kind of person is this? He's going to buy her off, and he just wants a girlfriend just so that he can show off in front of his friends to make himself look good. I was going to give Yvonne a present, a bribe. I was going to bribe her into it. The idea was based on the time I gave Pam McGovern a 45 record of I Honestly Love You by Olivia Newton-John. She was my sophisticated 7th grade science lab partner, who I also had a crush on, and she had told me one day that it was her favorite song. So that night I went to the mall and I bought her a copy. All right, so if I was going to name some of his attributes, he's not all that bad. He's thoughtful. He's observant. He listened to the girl. These are pretty good qualities to have. But up here, he's selfish, and he's all about what people think of him. And to buy somebody off, to bribe somebody, it's just not very nice. All right. So, the next day, sweating profusely, I gave her the record. She gasped, and she kissed me on the cheek, and I was on cloud 9 for the rest of the day, head over heels in love. It was this feeling that prompted me to do what I consider to be one of the dumbest things I've ever done. Okay, so here is that we're building suspense here. This was the dumbest thing he ever had done. So I'm going to just predict that this isn't going to go well for him. Whatever his plan is probably not going to go very well. And since he's trying to buy her off and bribe her, he's probably going to get what he deserves, as far as I'm concerned. I wrote her a syrupy note, thanking her for the kiss. I left it in our science book the next day and the day after that she didn't mention the note, but she was never quite as friendly to me again. She moved her chair farther away from me than usual, and I kept catching her look at me weirdly. And that same day, Kevin Phelps threw gum in my hair. The note had been a bad idea, but the bottom line was that the actual gift had done what it was supposed to do, and now I was going to try to repeat history. So he's hoping for a better outcome with Yvonne than he had with Pam. So I went home that night and I tried to think of something I could give Yvonne, something special, something that would scream, look what a great boyfriend I would make. So again, it's still all about him. It's not about her. So he's still being selfish. He's still saying, quote, look at me. He really cares about what other people think. And so that is his motivation to make him do whatever he's going to do. I looked around my room, but all I could see were dragster models, magic tricks, and hand puppets. Not exactly items that made girls want to kiss you. So the problem was I had no way of knowing what Yvonne liked or needed. All my friends were too chicken to go over to her and do any investigating for me. And without the proper reconnaissance, the wrong gift could be a disaster. An accidental gift of the Magi. That could possibly drive her from me and end our affair before it had even started. And so figuring I needed to approach this from a woman's point of view, I decided I would consult my mom. So he's going to go talk to his mom about it because he wants somebody else's point of view because he's really afraid he's going to give her the wrong thing and it's going to mess things up. So let's stop and let's just talk just for a second. So today in your notebook entry, you are going to create a My Character Wanted chart. And on a My Character Wanted chart, there are several columns. And in the first column, we want to think about, so I think my character is. All right, so from the things that I'm learning about this little guy, I'm going to say I think he's kind of devious because he wants to buy this girl off just so she'll be his girlfriend. Now, why does he want her to be a girlfriend? What does he want? He just wants to be seen with her. He wants to be seen with this beautiful girl and to be able to say, hey, check it out, you guys, that's my girlfriend. He's motivated by the need just to feel special and to be known by his friends. So that's what's driving him to this girl. Now, here's how I know. He actually admits that he wants to buy her off with a gift. He comes up with a sneaky little plan and then he lies to his mother. All right, so we hadn't quite got to there yet, but we know that he's about to talk to his mother. He's going to lie to her. And let's read about that just for a second before I give that away. So I said, approaching her timidly, I am in love with this girl who kind of is my girlfriend. And I wanted to give her a present, but I don't know what to get her. Okay, so here's what he's lying about. He's telling his mother that this girl is his girlfriend when this girl really doesn't even know he exists yet. So now he's a liar. So I'm going to put it out here. He's a liar. Now, here's the whole problem. How does his motivation of wanting people to look at him and see him with this beautiful girl drive the plot? This is his whole conflict. The character's whole conflict is he wants this girl to like him. He says, I'm in love with her, and this gift has to be great so that she will love me back. So that his motivation is driving the whole entire story. So my mother had this very surprised look on her face. I knew that she was aware of my crush on on the next door neighbor, Mary, but beyond that, I don't think she even thought I interacted with girls at school. Oh, Paul, that's so sweet, she said in a tone that made me feel kind of creepy. What kind of So what kind of things does she like? Well, that's a stumper, I felt like saying. If I knew what she liked, I wouldn't be asking you in the first place. But feeling that this was my only chance at doing things right with Yvonne, I decided to suck it up and navigate my way through this weird moment with my mother. Well, she's really into dressing up. She always wears nice clothes to school. That was true, even though it was information that could be gleaned by anybody with a pair of eyes and wasn't necessarily the intimate knowledge of a beau. But my mother didn't care. I could see that she was already getting an idea. I have just the thing, she said, getting up. Feeling a bit guilty. So he's feeling guilty that he fooled his mother, so he's not all bad. He kind of has a conscience. And the thinking I had a girlfriend who actually liked me or at least knew my name, I followed her into her bedroom to see this perfect gift. She opened up her jewelry box on the dresser and pulled out a dark gold necklace. It was an exotic piece of jewelry that looked like a bunch of miniature boat chains that had been welded together and then driven over with a steamroller. Looking back, I think it was copper or bronze, but at the time I entertained the thought that it was solid gold. It wasn't a very pretty piece of jewelry by any means, but it was substantial. This belonged to my mother. She gave it to me when I was a little girl. So that tells you this is really sentimental. This is special. Geez, that's great, I thought. Yvonne will want to marry me if I give her something this good. My mom looked at the necklace a little sadly because my grandma had just died. But this made my mom feel happy because I knew, or made me feel happy because I knew the necklace would now stay in the family. Yvonne and my mother could have long talks comparing their childhoods and swapping stories about all the things that happened to them while they were wearing the necklace. It's taking a little bit far now, isn't he? You sure you don't mind? I asked her, reaching out for the necklace. It was even heavier than it looked. Oh, besides, it's your first girlfriend, she said with a smile, and I don't have a daughter anyway, so this is the next best thing. That made me want to cry. I started thinking that maybe I should just give Yvonne a copy of I Honestly Love You, but the song was no longer a hit. And the necklace did seem like the perfect gift, and when Yvonne found out how valuable it was, she'd be putty in my hands. Okay, again, putty in my hands. I didn't know what I'd do with her once she was putty, but that wasn't a concern yet. First things first. All right, so let's stop just for a second. So, first of all, my character, when he approaches his mom, he's like, you can tell that he's a little bit nervous. I'm in love with this girl who's, he's stuttering a little bit. So I think that he's a little bit unsure of himself because he stutters and he approaches her timidly. Now, he's approaching her. What's driving him to do that? He wants to impress a girl. He thinks he's in love with her, and so she will be his girlfriend. He wants to impress her, so he's approaching his mom. Here's how I know. He wants to get just the right present that she will like enough to like him, but he's not sure of a good present. He seems embarrassed to ask his mother. All right, so now how does this drive the plot? This drives the plot because it's building the suspense that the narrator is nervous about including his mother in his plan. So, all of these things, the intent to impress his friends is motivating him to ask this girl to be his girlfriend, and he wants to bribe her to be his girlfriend because he thinks, well, he might not be enough, so he might need to have a gift to really, something that's really, really good that's going to make her really like him. So all of this is driving the plot. Now, here's what's going to happen. You are going to do some work with your book, and you're going to analyze your character, and you're going to find out, you're going to take a look at your character's actions, and you're going to ask yourself, what is motivating my character to do the things he or she does? What's the author really want me to see? You're going to read your character just like we read people. We watch what they do, we watch their actions, and then we can infer who they really are based on what they do and what they say, what they think. And you're going to do the same with your character. And you are going to create a My Character chart, just like I did. And on your chart, you're going to talk about what you think your character is based on what's motivated in them. You'll take some textual evidence, what your character is, what your character wants, how you know, and how this drives the whole plot. And you're going to get to read the rest of the story, and you're going to get to find out what happens. So hold on just a second and let me see if I can figure out how to show you what your notebook looks like. Here it is. All right, so here's what it's going to look like. I gave you a little example just in case you forgot what to do with it. As you read, jot things your character says and does in the first column below. Right here is where you're going to put your textual evidence. I gave you an example from popularity, and then you're going to say, this is, I think my character is based on what he said. This is what I think he wants based on what he said. This is how I know, and this is how it drives the plot. You're going to have to scroll down to find your space in order to type. So go have fun doing this work.